There are so many incredible moments in Marvel canon. But have I told you about the time that Thor participated in Messiah Complex, even though he was in Oklahoma at the time, trying to resurrect Asgard following the events of Ragnarok? No? I guess that makes sense. This is a gameplay series. Hello everybody and welcome to another installment of my infinitely long series, where I play Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games, and prove that one of my favorite heroes, Thor, is technically capable of defeating every villain in the game. In the interest of trying to keep this series fresh, I decided that I wanted to jump ahead to the next Evolution box and play against the two Marauders scenarios, Morlock Siege and On the Run. I assumed that because I was able to beat this scenario with Cable and/or Domino when the box first came out, that I was probably going to be able to handle this scenario with really no problems. At the time, I was just using their pre-constructed decks, so if I could use any card, I was probably going to win. That was not true. This scenario went through every single aspect. Aggression, then pool, then leadership, then protection, then justice, and I could not win in a way that goes beyond all my follies when I was playing against Rhino and Claw and Ultron. Like, I just could not do it. I played upwards of 25 games in preparation for this episode. And honestly, I don't know necessarily what to point to. Thor has his shortcomings, and at some point we bring in Valkyrie. She also has her shortcomings. But it seemed rational that any hero should really be able to defeat any villain. And, you know, the conceit of this entire series is kind of built upon just a bad reputation for characters that are older and don't have the tools that, you know, new heroes just kind of come right out of the box with. But, oh my gosh, was this just the worst. First of all, I started off with the aggression deck that I beat Morlock Siege with Thor, and thought, you know what, I'll work my way through this. And I was doing pretty good. I was getting through the first stage before you flip over the hope card. We'll get into all of that in a little bit for people who aren't necessarily backwards and forwards with this scenario. But when that turn happens, I'm just not ready. And the problem is that, well, I would think I was ready, but I wasn't really ready. But the problem is that the threat is looming. There is no move over to the second main scheme. You've got that buffer. It's like you get two schemes on for each wave of the encounter that are going to end at some point. So aggression wasn't on the table. So I tried pool. I thought, what if I go get plot convenience and I hide the bomb under it? I'm doing this off the cuff. I think the logic was there that the bomb, not an attack. So it gets around the guard keyword when we do move into the second phase. And all I need to do is basically have enough life that the shockwave that happens afterwards doesn't kill Thor. That did not work. It might in the future. I look forward to a point in time when I am able to make Thor pool work. So I make my way through all the other aspects, and it's just not working. And I finally move over to Valkyrie. I go, you know what? This is Asgard versus the universe. If Valkyrie can win, I will just come back and I will defeat Thor in a new game plus kind of scenario. That wasn't working. And so I put a lot of thought into it. And I realized that part of the reason why I was losing was two threat accumulating faster than either hero was able to kind of handle. Recordings got deleted out of frustration. Also, every attempt takes upwards of 20 to 40 minutes. And once you have 24 attempts, I don't have time to go back through all of them and have a laser focus as to where everything went wrong. But everything went wrong. So I resolved that maybe the answer was that I would do two-handed solo. Would double the amount of threat I was competing against. It would allow each person, each character to kind of specialize in what they were going to do. Seemed like a great plan. So I started out with Valkyrie in protection and Thor in aggression. Thought I was playing into Thor's inherent abilities. Thought I was taking Valkyrie, who would be able to handle minions, but would be able to kind of play defense on the backside, because I thought I'll just use the Deathglow's free ready to block for both characters, maybe use Desperate Defense to kind of like keep her ready to block for Thor, or, vice versa, depending on the turn order. And then when it came time for her to actually like get out the minions, she would just take out the Deathglow holder, she would ready, and then could kind of just go from there. That was not the case. I just could not make that happen. And it's not even in a like self-deprecation way. It was just hard and I couldn't make it work. So I decided to switch the two. Thor would become defense and Valkyrie would become aggression in a deck that I was sort of taking the cues from a deck. I don't remember what it's called. I will definitely find the link before I post this, and I have it in the thing. I will have the deck list for both of these decks, plus the deck that influenced the Valkyrie deck. It was a Wasp deck that used hand cannon. Obviously, Wasp is, in her giant form, very good at spreading out damage. So using things like follow through and hand cannon could do a lot of damage. I was like, I think I can do the same thing with Valkyrie. And suddenly I found myself 24 games in. And that's when I came to this attempt. I started off by randomly selecting a villain for the scenario, landing on Harpoon. This is advantageous for us because that 0 in the scheming category is going to be crucial to shaving off a couple extra turns over the course of the scenario. One thing I'm a little concerned about, though, is those extra boost cards off of attack activations. Those could add up very quickly. I remove the Harpoon minion from the encounter deck and seek out Greycrow and Arclight as part of the reveal trigger on the main scheme. This is the result of 24 attempts at this. I realized that it was probably best to get the minions with Retaliate out of the way right away, because I could sculpt my opening hand on trying to get rid of them in one attack and avoid the retaliation damage, as opposed to them showing up unannounced later in the game and causing me to reprioritize how I was going to handle the turn. My opening hand for Valkyrie is Valhalla, Audacity, Follow Through, Dragonfang, Full Body Charge, and Marked. From experience, I know that Valhalla and Dragonfang are going to be very critical for the long-term circumstances of this encounter, so I keep both of them and mulligan into Aragorn, Marked, Have at Thee, and Follow Through. This hand is fine, if not maybe a little stacked in a way that I wasn't intending. But the most important thing is to get Valhalla and Dragonfang into play, and then use the remainder of my hand to move the Deathglow around as I'm taking out unassuming minions. For Thor, my opening hand is Defender of the Nine Realms, God of Thunder, Lady Sif, Bait and Switch, and Jump Flip. This hand has me conflicted, as I would really love to use some of this protection during the villain phase, but I need to be thinking about how I'm going to build out on the first few turns. A tough balance. Not to mention, Defender of the Nine Realms is not a dead card here, but we already have enough to worry about that I don't know that I want to prioritize putting another Marauder level minion into play. Ultimately, I choose to keep just God of Thunder and mulligan into Powerful Punch, Defender of the Nine Realms, Strength, and Hammer Throw. My first turn with Thor consists of finding Mjolnir and playing out God of Thunder. I change to hero form and opt into playing Defender of the Nine Realms. I know what I just said, but I think it's entirely possible that Valkyrie should be able to handle whichever threat comes onto the table. Finding Ramrod. Drawing into Thor's helmet and Nerves of Steel before clearing out the main scheme. I play out Mjolnir and Nerves of Steel before attacking Ramrod and passing the turn to Valkyrie. Valkyrie's turn consists of playing out Valhalla and Dragonfang and putting the Deathglow onto Greycrow before attacking him for 4 damage. After the Deathglow falls off, I ready my hero up and draw a card off Valhalla, placing the Deathglow on Ramrod. I make a similar attack, taking him out as well, allowing Valkyrie to ready up once more, at which point I attack Harpoon down to 17 hit points. I've learned the hard way to not put the Deathglow onto the villain unless I really have a solid plan immediately, because it gets stuck there and then I can't do anything about it, and suddenly I'm working inefficiently, and how the heck am I supposed to defeat the scenario if the Deathglow is not where it's supposed to be? I ready up and Thor draws Asgard, Electrostatic Armor, Limitless Stamina, and Professor X, while Valkyrie draws Have at Thee, Shield Maiden, Visit Valhalla, another Shield Maiden, and Looking for Trouble. When Harpoon attacks Thor, I choose to take the 2 indirect damage and proceed to take 3 more damage, resulting in Thor being at 9 hit points. Due to Arclight being engaged with Valkyrie, Harpoon schemes for 1, and the boost ability on Ruckus stuns Valkyrie. Thor's encounter card is Dark Designs, adding a counter to Pursued by the Past and causing Harpoon to scheme for 2, bringing me to 5 of 16. Then, Valkyrie's encounter card is Vertigo. On Valkyrie's turn, I attack to remove the stun, then place the Death Blow on Vertigo. I play Have at Thee to take out Vertigo, carrying 3 damage over to Harpoon, bringing them down to 14 hit points. The Death Blow readies Valkyrie, and Valhalla draws me into Flight of the Valkyrier, which I use to place the Death Blow on Arclight before attacking Harpoon down to 11. On Thor's turn, I play out Professor X, confusing Harpoon. Professor X then thwarts the main scheme, and Thor makes a basic attack against Harpoon, bringing them to 8. I ready the team up, and Thor draws Hammer Throw, Taunt, and Lightning Strike. Then Valkyrie draws Take That, Have at Thee, Audacity, Angela, and the Power of Aggression. Alright, so a few observations thus far. I am really feeling Thor's hand size in this moment. But I know that I can't flip to Alter Ego because the villain's just going to keep scheming because I haven't dealt with Arclight yet. In an effort to be conservative, I have to stay in hero form. On the flip side, I feel like Valkyrie is doing exactly what I'm looking for her to do. Play out events, get some support out, and use the remainder of the hand to use the Death Blow to just get out minions and chip away at the villain. And yes, I have tracked at this point. There were 2 copies of Audacity in Valkyrie's deck when there was supposed to be 1 Audacity and 2 aggressive energies. I don't think that affects the game, other than the fact that I have twice the opportunity to draw a card that pings 1 damage at the villain. The confused status negates Harpoon from scheming, and Professor X defends Thor. I remember that Arclight is supposed to attack Valkyrie, and she goes down to 9 hit points. And Valkyrie's encounter card is Gorgeous George, whereas Thor's is Riptide, drawing him into God of Thunder and Preemptive Strike. Thor plays out Electrostatic Armor on his turn and attacks Riptide, following it up with a Hammer Throw. This defeats Riptide, and the 7 overkill damage brings Harpoon to 1 hit point. Going into Valkyrie's turn, I know that I need to get as many minions off the table as possible. Most importantly, Arclight. I attack Gorgeous George for 3, then play Have at Thee through Arclight, taking her out and carrying 2 damage over to Harpoon. This flips Hope's Captor card to the Desperate side, refilling the villain to 32 hit points. The main scheme advances, and each hero will now be engaged with a Marauder. Those Marauders will gain guard, and lastly, each Marauder on the table gets a tough status. I feel really good at this point, but I would be lying if I didn't say that this turn in the scenario can double down on the difficulty. I think I'm prepared, but I'm not certain. Thor will take on Riptide, and Valkyrie will take on Blockbuster. The thought here is to minimize the amount of keywords being added to these minions, while also thinking about the hit points relative to what I think each hero will be able to output. After all of that has resolved, the Death Blow triggers and Valkyrie readies up. I use Valhalla to heal the damage and draw Hand Cannon. I break the Tough on Harpoon while attaching the Death Blow to Gorgeous George, then defeat George, and the Death Blow readies me up once again. I attach the Death Blow once more before breaking the Tough on Blockbuster. The team readies up. Valkyrie draws Hand Cannon, Power of Aggression, Valkyrie's Spear, Chooser of the Slain, and Marked, and Thor draws Defender of the Nine Realms and Hammer Throw. Harpoon schemes for 3. Then Thor defends against Riptide's attack for 3, breaking the Tough status with the Electrostatic Armor and taking 1 going to 8. Harpoon schemes for 3 against Valkyrie, and she takes the full attack from Blockbuster, going from 10 down to 6 hit points. Thor's encounter card is Hidden in the Clutter, which thankfully only goes on to Riptide, whereas Valkyrie draws Nowhere is Safe, adding a counter to Pursued by the Past and causing me to part with Valhalla. This is a huge hit to my tempo, and time is now of the essence because the threat of Enchantress is real. Valkyrie plays out Hand Cannon, and I use the boosted damage to take out Blockbuster and hit Harpoon for 1. I elect to have Valkyrie attack Riptide, removing Hidden in the Clutter and goading an attack for 3, bringing Valkyrie to 3 hit points. I then play Chooser of the Slain, grabbing Ruckus from the discard pile, drawing energy and combat training. I play out combat training and attach Marked and the Death Blow to Ruckus. The turn gets passed to Thor, who plays out Defender of the Nine Realms and finds Hairbag, lowering the threat and drawing me into 2 copies of Desperate Defense. Now, I put Thor into the defense aspect because I thought that extra point of defense he has over Valkyrie would allow him to use Desperate Defense effectively. But the further we get into this game, the more I feel like that strategy was kind of built on shaky ground. I play out Mjolnir and hammer throw through Riptide, carrying over 4 damage to Harpoon, bringing him to 27 hit points. The team readies up and Valkyrie draws Nick Fury, Aggressive Energy, Fight of the Valkyrier, Throg, and Martial Prowess. Thor draws Powerful Punch, Karma, Limitless Stamina, and Desperate Defense. In response to Harpoon's attack, Thor blocks for Valkyrie, and I play Desperate Defense to bump his defense up to 4. I choose to give Harpoon the extra boost card, because what's the worst that could happen? And we get 5 boost icons, bringing the total to 8 damage. Alright, that's about as bad as it gets. I respond with Powerful Punch, bringing Harpoon to 23, and Thor goes down to 4. Lastly, Electrostatic Armor activates, bringing Harpoon down to 22. I'm tempted to defend against Ruckus, but Valkyrie takes the 1 damage, going to 2. At this point, there is nothing that's going to save Thor, so I give the extra boost card to Harpoon, and Thor goes to 0. On the bright side, the second copy of Hidden in the Clutter was burned. Can't overlook that. This is going to be an uphill battle. Our encounter card is Dizzying Deeds, Exhausting Valkyrie. No! Please stop. Please stop. This is only getting worse. On my turn, I play out Nick Fury and elect to draw 3 cards, getting Take That, Chooser of the Slain, and Quinn Carrier. And since we are past the point of being coy and we need to capitalize on Marked, I play out Chooser of the Slain, picking up Grey Crow. I know, it's Grey Crow, but he has low hit points and I have a way to cap the amount of damage that he can deal in a turn. This draws me Annabelle Riggs and Hand Cannon. I play Take That, removing Ruckus and bringing Harpoon to 18 through overkill damage. The Deathblow returns to Valkyrie and she readies up. I then attack Harpoon to 12. Then I end my turn by having Nick Fury thwart the main scheme to 11 of 18. At this point, I choose to go to Alter Ego to try to minimize the amount of damage I'm taking. But after drawing Hone Technique, Full Body Charge, Follow Through, the Power of Aggression, another Follow Through, and Visit Valhalla, I realize that I'm dead to threat if I allow Harpoon and Grey Crow to both scheme. So I toss back a random card and revert to hero form for the phase. Nick Fury takes the attack from Harpoon and I discard Combat Training, minimizing Grey Crow's damage to a single point of damage and bringing me to 1. But before I can resolve the encounter cards, I remember that no, Nick Fury would not have died from the attack to Harpoon because Harpoon would have schemed. This encounter is going to be the death of me. So I rewind, putting Fury and Combat Training back into play. Harpoon schemes for 2, and Grey Crow can have that extra 2 damage, as he's just going to be taking out Nick Fury anyway. My encounter cards are Slab and Heavy Armament. At this point, I need to pause and think about what comes next. Also, I needed to go celebrate my birthday at my parents' house because family comes first. I attach the Deathblow to Grey Crow and play Full Body Charge, sending overkill damage through to Harpoon and bringing him to 4. Then I fire up the hand cannons and attack Harpoon for 5, defeating the on-the-run scenario. Alright, so back to the thinking corner, which unfortunately the dog has taken a bit of control of, so I can't have the same setup as I did a couple weeks ago when I filmed all that stuff. So what I just said doesn't make any sense, because Full Body Charge does not deal 12 damage, or else we would be talking about it a lot more and singing its praises. But I think this is a good lesson in just how complicated this game can be and the importance of maintaining the state of the game as much as possible when you can. If we look back at how I ended this particular scenario, Full Body Charge dealing the 8 damage to Harpoon still sort of works, in the sense that we use Valkyrie to attack and take out Harpoon, and then ready with the Deathblow, attack Full Body Charge, attack again. There are other issues with this particular run that I noticed in editing. That's besides the point. But like I said, the point of all of this that I think we can kind of take, because I take a lot of lessons from this stuff. First of all, in playing through this scenario, I feel like I learned so much more about Thor and Valkyrie that I just didn't understand before, and I will carry it on into the future. I thought that I was going to probably put them aside for a little bit and work on other videos. And I don't know if that's going to be the case, because in editing this and in kind of reflecting back on it, I really kind of re-upped my love of these characters. But as I said, maintaining the status quo, state-based effects, whatever you want to call them, bringing in other terminology from other games. There are times, such as the fact that Greycrow had guard, and I did not attack him. The effects ripple out. Greycrow wouldn't be there. Nick Fury would have blocked. Maybe my decisions would have changed. I can get hung up on that all I want, especially because I'm editing this and I'm rethinking through all my thought processes, even after writing a script. At the end of the day, what I want everyone to take away from this is this was not an easy process. The process of winning the scenario was not easy. I had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to make that happen. But if you yourself are running into this game and saying this is too hard, first of all, try Arkham. It's even harder. But I think what you need to remember is you are going to make mistakes. No one plays a flawless version of this game. Just go ask Reddit. I know what mistakes I made, and there will probably be people that will point out other mistakes I made. And that's not what's important. What's important is trying to keep yourself accountable. This isn't a competitive game. This is a co-op game. So if you and your friend make a mistake, that's one thing. If I make a mistake in trying to put together this narrative and try to create a game, that's on me. But I'm the only one accountable for it. And I think I still had fun. So even if there are mistakes in your games and you realize, oh, we had 2 player side schemes in play when there's only 2 of us, that's not how that works. Like, okay, either you fix that or you just go, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake going forward. I think that's what the important thing is. But yes, I do think that I won this scenario, regardless of the fact that, like I said, full body charge does not deal 12 damage. That's all I really sat down to say. And suddenly this diatribe kind of came out. But either way, I will just use this as the outro. I already filmed an outro, but this is better. I will be back hopefully in September. I don't know if I'll put anything out in August, other than maybe like a pack opening or something. Or not a pack opening, like a review of like a player, of a hero pack. Sorry. I don't know if I will have actually any gameplay, only because the month will get busy. I just want to set your expectations. If there is anything, cool. But if there's not, then know that I will be back in September. Until then, thank you for getting this far. Play your games as well as possible, and I hope you have a great day.